to What Do You Want to Do, the show that will hopefully help you figure out what you want to do in life or reconnect you to what you love doing. Each show has a guest who is doing what they want to do, whether it's in their career or in addition to their regular job. Most importantly, we want to help you realize that no matter your age, you too can do what you want to do if you have the will to do it. Now here's your host, Leonard Kaplan.
Hi, and welcome to part 2 of my exclusive interview with Altagracia Nova, the singer, actor, producer, writer. And I have a special little thing right here because the last time when she was talking about being on Sabado Gigante with Don Francisco, we didn't have the pictures yet, and now I have them. So what better place to show them than in the opening? So here's Altagracia with Don Francisco himself. You can see that she's having a great time and he's having a great time, and it's a nice little close-up there. And the other shot is a little bit further away with some of the other performers, and this is great stuff to have. So sorry we couldn't show it in the last show, but better late than never. So here in part 2, more of Altagracia's career, and I asked her that all-important question that I ask all What Do You Want to Do guests: how can people get involved in either singing or acting or producing or getting to the place where Altagracia is right now? What trajectory did she take? Did she have a mentor? Everybody's story is unique. Let's go to part 2 right now and see it all.
I've had people that have come to me and have literally cried and said, "You just changed my life with that role, the way that you defended." For example, Lola defends her brother, Oscar. Wow. She defends her brother, Oscar, so much. And I had someone that came and hugged me for like 3 minutes, and they said, "My God, like, you are exactly the person that I needed when I was growing up, defending me, because I didn't know how to defend myself. I didn't have my own voice." And the fact that you had that for him and for anybody else that needed it, whether it was women empowerment and different things like that. So things like that really just touch me. And I think that that's so important, to be able to move and create roles where you can actually move people and make them feel special in one way or another. I think that that's one of the things that I really, really enjoy about acting. And then when you sing, obviously, you get to sing songs that people can relate to as well, whether it's a broken heart, whether it's because you're happy and you're in love, or whether it's because someone betrayed you, or so many different things. And it's life. We live in a world where we have emotions, whether they're not so good, whether we categorize them as not so good or not so, or bad, or great, or whatever the case is. But these are things that we feel as human beings. These are real life emotions. And the fact that we can do that and people can actually be touched by it, that's what's the most meaningful to me for what I do.
Well said. Well said. I want to talk to you about the differences or the similarities between being an entertainer in Boston, being an entertainer in New York City. I would imagine that they're worlds apart.
Oh, yeah. It's a different ball game. It's a different ball game, because obviously you're coming to the Mecca. You're coming to, it's like they said, a concrete jungle where dreams are made of. When you come to New York, the street lights, you can make your dreams come true. It's a completely different ball game. There are a lot of opportunities here. And that's the beauty of it. That's why I've always been so drawn to it, because there are so many different things that you can go for, whether it's musical theater, whether it's you're pursuing your own music, whether you wanted to perform with a band, or whether it's acting, whether it's TV shows, whether it's plays. And as I just mentioned, musical theater, if you wanted to dance, if you wanted there are so many different things that you can pursue here, and so many opportunities that is the most meaningful. Of course, my hometown, of course, it's always going to be my hometown. There's something very special and dear to me. When I go home, I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. I haven't been here in a long time. It feels good. It feels good. Or if I pass by Mass Ave, and that's where my singing school was, where I used to take singing lessons for 6 years.
Did you go to Berkeley?
Even when I was in college. I actually used to rehearse in Berkeley
Okay.
with an amazing musician. Amazing musician. He's also from Boston, but he's not there now. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's somewhere in Minneapolis right now, but he was in Florida last time that I knew. But he's an amazing pianist, amazing. And I used to perform with him because he used to accompany me. I used to perform at all of the high school graduations. I used to be the singer. And then we used to rehearse at Berkeley. So I used to meet tons of musicians at Berkeley and tons of professors, which was a really awesome opportunity. Obviously, it's Berkeley. Hello.
That's right.
Yes, yes, yes. But my singing school was right across from Berkeley, Berkeley
That's
College of
amazing.
Music. So I was
Wow.
always surrounded by all of these amazing musicians and professors. Always, always.
So now let's talk about low points. Were there any low points where you thought, had second doubts about whether you're going to continue with this, or no? Was it always a rocket?
You want me to tell you something, Leonard? I think
Yeah.
that one of the things that I've always admired about myself, because you have to speak the truth. You have to say, what are the things that you feel strong about when it comes to yourself as a person? I think it has been my ability to just go and keep going, the willpower. I believe in this. I will not fail. I will go after it, because if I don't do it, then I'm never going to be fully happy. I think that if you stop doing what you're passionate about and what you love, you're not going to be really happy. And I'm the type of person that I don't like to feel that way. I don't like to feel limited. And then when I speak to my close ones, my close friends and family members and siblings and everything, they've always told me, what I've always admired about you was your strength, your ability to just keep going no matter what, and of course there are so many times that you just feel like, is this going to work for me? Should I keep going? Is this gonna, oh, another hiccup, oh, another obstacle. But I think I think that one of the things that I really enjoyed about just me as a person is I'm optimistic. So I always tend to find the good things, and even if it's a negative situation, I always try to find the positives, always. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is a hiccup, and maybe this is not, but maybe this is going to be a detour to get me to where I need to go. And I think that that's the mentality that has gotten me far. If you don't have that strength and that willpower and that optimism, I think in this industry, you'd be in trouble, because it's a tough industry. It's not the type of industry that you can say, oh, it's easy. I can do this forever and I'll be fine. No, it's full of a lot of tests, and you never know what to expect. Just like when you're auditioning, you can be auditioning for films or, for TV or whatever the case is. And the thing is that you can be selected or maybe not be selected. And it's up to you to get out of an audition and say, well, oh, I don't think I did that well, or maybe it could have been better. And what if I don't get called? Oh, I'm going to give up. No. Okay. You know what? Next, moving on, moving forward. Just in case this doesn't go through, let's move on to the next role and let's see if we can book that one. And I think if you don't have that mentality, you'd be in trouble in this industry.
I'm going to guess that you're your own manager. You don't have a manager, or am I wrong?
I do have folks that I work with. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I do manage a lot of myself because I think that when I started doing it, I didn't do too bad. People were like, and I was actually negotiating with these big networks and these people, and they're like, wait a second, you're the talent. Oh my God. And you managing yourself, and you're doing a pretty good job negotiating your own, what you need and what you're asking for in terms of pay and what and I never did too bad, because I've always been, one of the degrees that I went to college for was general management business. So you see, does that make sense? So
it does very much.
Yeah. So I said, okay, one of the things that I can do is I know I can manage myself, and, and of course I do have folks that I do work with, because you do need that guidance, and you do need people that have great resources within the industry that you can work with. But a lot of the projects that I've worked on, I've actually managed to do it, on my own. But I do have a team of people that I work with. Yes. So I
Now,
have to not
you
take the credit.
you strike me as a very organized person. I can picture you with a calendar in your hand, or maybe these days calendars on your phone.
I know, right?
Do
Phone
you
all the
look
time.
at it sometimes and say, well, I did more acting this month than I did music. I did more music this month and than acting. Do you count it out like that and you try to make it equal, or does it just come, this comes randomly and that comes randomly?
It's so funny, Leonard, because just last night I was saying, "Oh, I need to get into the music studio. I need to get into that booth. I need to work on that new song that I've had in my head and that I wrote already, and it's driving me nuts because I've been doing a lot of the acting." And then I say, "Well," and I kind of pace myself, and I say, "Wait, I have to take a break, and I have to kind of get in there and sing my heart out, because that's one of the things that I really enjoy too, and it keeps me creative. It keeps me open to art in general. So I do from time to time. And last night was one of those times that I said, "Oh my God, I need to get into that studio booth like yesterday." So I try, but sometimes one overlaps or one takes over the other. But I do tend to keep a reasonable balance for them both. I do. For some reason, I've always made it work. I don't know how. Don't ask me how, but I did.
You're very independent, but yet you're down to earth, and you're successful, but you're not arrogant. You got a good blend going on in there. That's my observation.
I try.
So now let's talk about something you may or may not want to talk about. Have you run into any like Harvey Weinstein types or unscrupulous business people who try to say, I wrote that song, you didn't? What happens when you run into these, as we say in Yiddish, no good nicks?
You do come across people that could be difficult sometimes. And I have, I think everyone has in this industry come across those people, but I think it's important not to burn bridges. So sometimes you just have to just let things go, unless it's obviously something that's major, that's like really problematic, that you're like, no, I can't let that go. I have to, fight one way or another, whether it's legally or whether it's, whatnot. But I like to keep as much peace as possible, because that interferes with your art, I think. And I think that being a strong woman has kept me from a lot of negative experiences that a lot of other colleagues of mine have actually experienced. And I've actually helped them. I'm like, wait a second, well, they owe you this work and you haven't even, no. This is what you have to do. And then I'll guide them and say, well, this is what you should do. I don't think that I've had many problems in the sense, because I've known how to manage myself or to kind of speak to these people and find a medium. I like to try to, I think, my parents, I'll tell you what, my parents have always been these mediators and always been so pleasant, and they are loved by like everyone. And they always try to find a medium or try to find a halfway where, listen, let's meet there. Let's kind of find. And I think that I got a lot of that attitude from them, because for some reason it's worked for me, whether it's that someone is being complicated. And then I say, listen, let's talk just one-on-one. Let's just have a conversation. Let's really just get to the bottom of it. Just you and I. And it's worked. It's worked. And I'm not going to say that it worked all the time. Some experiences may not have ended, in the best of terms, but it never ended sour either, to the point where it's like, oh, this person did this to me and I have to go after that person, or that person, I did that to that person. No, it's never ended up it's never ended in such a bad note where it's left me like really bad memories. But I do have to say that there are many difficult people out there, and you just have to kind of find a way, find a medium to, kind of make it work. And if it doesn't work, you had creative differences and you go your own ways, and that's what it is, and that's where I've left it, and it's worked for me since I started pursuing this.
Either in music or in acting or in both, what would be something that you haven't gotten a chance to do that you absolutely have to do during your career?
Well, I've gotten to direct, I've gotten to produce. Those things I really enjoy because I like to, like I told you, I like to very much be involved and produce a lot of my material, whether it's music, whether it's acting, or whether it's a shoot. You know, a music video. I've directed and produced a lot of my videos and so forth. But gee, you're making me think. Is there anything that I would say that I would want to do that I haven't done yet? I think eventually probably directing bigger projects would be you know, great. And of course that takes some time because you're trying to still work on your projects and so forth. But I think that eventually if I get involved in a bigger project and direct something bigger, would probably be something that I would enjoy in the future.
Let's
Whether
say
it's film or, you know, in
Yeah.
TV, that would be great.
let's say a big time director in Hollywood wants you to do a blockbuster film, but that would mean worldwide like media, and you might have to give up your music. What would happen? What would you say?
Well, listen, Leonard, being the negotiator that I am, I'd probably negotiate my music into it.
Probably so.
I probably
so.
would. I always find a way to make it work. But like I said, I don't have a problem. I tend to, you know, if you ask me, if you say, well, how many songs do you have right now that you can work on? Trust me, I have plenty. So if I get into a studio, I can sit there and I can work on many different songs at the same time. And if I need to take a break from it and go and work on acting and kind of take a break from it, I know that I got that done. I know that I have that work done, that I can start delegating to producers and so forth, work on this while I work on my project here, because I can't give you any attention until I'm done with it. And I think that that's probably something that I would do, where I would just delegate in the meantime until I can focus on that acting for that portion of time. But I don't mind taking some time to focus on a project, especially because when you're working on something and you're creating, you don't want to focus on so many things at the same time because it can be draining. So it's always good to kind of give it your undivided attention to that one particular project sometimes, if you can. And then, of course, once you're done or once you're a little bit more flexible, then focus on everything else. So I do understand that concept. That's why I try not to, you know, trap myself with so many different projects at the same time, because I understand that I also need to give projects my undivided attention so that it can be as successful as possible.
Okay, we're going to come up to our last question pretty soon. But before that, I want to ask you about social media, because you're very active on Instagram, and I think you have a YouTube channel too.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay. And how important has Instagram and YouTube and some of the other ones that maybe I don't know about, how important have they been to the trajectory of your career? Do they have any of those things gotten you jobs?
Oh, geez. You know, I'm going to be very honest to you. When YouTube started, it was becoming super famous, like around that time when it first, you know, I directed and produced one of my first videos, and I remember that I uploaded it, and I don't know if it was sometime, it was like during the evening so that I can, you know, let activity happen the next day. And Leonard, I uploaded it at night. I don't remember the time. I don't remember. It was years ago. And then the next day I woke up and it had like almost 1,000 views.
Wow.
Yeah,
I believe it.
And that was at the beginning. That was before all the YouTubers, before everything, before any of that was happening. So that's how I knew that my work was getting the, you know, the activity that it needed. And then that night, which made it the 24-hour window, it had about 2,500 or something views. And I realized, wow, the power of social media. Because what happens is, I'm glad that you asked me this question, because I speak about this all the time, especially when I'm at network events and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
When if you were trying to be an artist in the 90s or in the early 2000s, you needed to rely on a record label. You needed to rely, unless you had a lot of money and you were independent, and you were obviously finding the right connections to make your music happen. But nowadays, it's so interesting that you can actually put work out there and it could just be seen by anybody in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And how beautiful is that? That's why I tell people, even those that are trying to pursue their dream of being an artist or an actor or anything, I said, this is the perfect opportunity to do it. Why not? If not now, when? Because now is when you can actually start putting out material, and it can be promoted, or you don't have to promote it if you don't want to. You can actually just post it on your social media, and it could just be seen by so many people in the world that your content can actually get the activity that it needs. So I think that it's so important. Social media is such an amazing tool to use nowadays. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, those are such amazing outlets to take advantage of. Apart from other ones, of course, that are more like, in the music, in the acting, in the singing department and so forth, like the music industry and so forth. But I think it's so important to use social media. Those outlets are incredibly important for an artist to promote themselves nowadays.
Great answer. You've utilized it to its utmost, I think.
Yeah.
So now we've come to the part of the show. I usually break these shows up into maybe 2 or even 3 parts. Right. And at the end of the last part, or if this is just the one show, I like to have the guest speak to people in the audience who may be listening or watching, how they would advise them if they wanted to go into, in your case, acting or the music industry. What would you say to a person, maybe they're a junior in high school or senior in high school, they want to do what you do, they're listening and watching this, what would you say to them?
I would say, like I mentioned before at the beginning of this interview, I did have a role model that did guide me and said, education is very important. And you want to make sure that you go all the way if you can, just because you never know what can happen. Just like an athlete, they can get hurt and then it's over. Their career is over. They can't play again. So you want to have a backup. It's important to have a backup. But, and the funny thing is that I am I guess, I've always been called, hey, you're very hardworking. I worked very hard for where I am today, what I've accomplished so far. And I know that there's a lot more for me to accomplish. And education is very important, because that's what allowed me also the opportunity to be so independent and kind of do my own thing, where I can direct and I can produce and I can get in a studio and do things myself, and in the acting world as well. I would say definitely try to get an education, try to hone your skills, because yes, you can say, oh, I can be a great singer, I can sing. But if you don't have a singing coach, or if you don't take singing lessons, that actually does help. That actually gives you ideas and helps you explore what you can do with your voice, how far you can go with it. The same thing with acting. You don't want to limit yourself. Oh, well, I think I can act well and I think I'll be fine. Well, I could have done a lot of these things when I was 12, 13, I was auditioning for commercials and I was getting callbacks and booking things. And I started going to singing and acting school when I was 13, professionally, that is, because before I was doing other classes, but not professionally. But I think that if you try to study what you love, you'll have a better outcome and you'll get farther in life, and you won't be limited or thrown into, okay, well, she would be good just for these roles, or he'll be good for these roles, or, for this type of music only, or just for, backup or singing, and that's it. You just want to make sure that you educate yourself as much as you can on what it is that you love to do. And then make sure that you understand the importance of branding, the importance of marketing, the importance of, because you can have social media, but if you're putting out the wrong content, it's just like, oh, okay. So it's all a matter of educating yourself as well. There are so many classes that you can take nowadays online that you can just educate yourself on what you can do and how far you can get with the content that you're going to put out there. So just really just educate yourself. And I'm a woman of faith, and I always like to put this first. And I think that one of the reasons why I've kept going and I've been so strong and I've done so far well, but I know that I can do better because I always strive to do better and be better. I do believe in God, and I pray. I often pray, and I, believe that that's worked a lot of things for me. So I think that once you have that understanding, and you kind of just have to stay disciplined. Discipline is so important because it's so easy for us to procrastinate. It's so easy for us to get on social media and start watching other people's videos and photos and this and that, and then you just kind of lose yourself. Whereas you're like, okay, that's enough, balance. I took a break, but let me now work on what I want to work on and what I need to, get better at. And I think that's how you end up succeeding ultimately.
Great answer. I think that'll help a lot of people who are listening or watching this show. Altagracia, thank you so much for being on What Do You Want to Do?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that was part 2 of my exclusive interview with Altagracia Nova. Join me next time for another guest, another topic, another profession, another hobby. Until then, what do you want to do?